Assalamualaikum and good morning, sir. So today we are from Group 6. We are going to present and explain about our topic, which is demand pull inflation under inflation topic. Okay, we start with the introduction about the demand pull inflation. So let's understanding about the demand pull inflation. So definition based on the Cambridge Dictionary, when the high demand for goods and services allow manufacturers to increase prices rapidly. So let's make some scenario or example of the situation maybe occur in our life. So let's consider that you have your beloved toothpaste for a moment. So you like that toothpaste because you like the way it smells and how it helps to how it helps your clean to look fresh and clean. So when you are coming low on supply, as usual, you go to the store just to buy the box of the toothpaste. So you realize there's only one box left, and what you need to do is just you rush to the counter from shelf and pay the toothpaste. So only one moment you discover that you don't even have enough money as you go there just for 10 ringgit in your purse. Before this, okay, you see, your toothpaste, it costs about 9 ringgit and 50 cent. So of course you have a balance, even though you bring 10 ringgit. But now the cost rise to 10 ringgit and 10 cent. So sure, demand for your toothpaste become high, can become real become rises. So right now, demand pull inflation, that's what you have experienced. So let's see the definition of the demand pull inflation. So demand pull inflation is a type of inflation that occur when the economy aggregate demand surpasses the economy aggregate supply, leading prices to rise. And it's a situation that typically defined as a huge amount of money chasing a small amount of good, and it is frequently the consequence of high customer demand. So when a large number of people buy the same item, prices rises, and when this happens across the economy for all sort of commodities. So there's a scenario that relate with this sentence, which is demand pull inflation. So we look at the phrase that actually really related with the demand pull inflation, which is too much money chasing too few good. Let's move to demand pull inflation graph. So I already insert the graph on the slide. So for the x-axis, we can measure it as a real gross domestic product, or we known as a real GDP. And for the y-axis is generally price level. So so when the aggregate demand, okay, when aggregate demand AD, okay, AD zero, the equilibrium is less than full employment, which lead to the price level of P0. So if the aggregate demand rises to 81, the price will rise to P1 owing to the oversupply at price P0, resulting in increasing in a real GDP. Okay, so this happened because production cannot be easily extended above full employment YF. So the aggregate supply curve become inelastic and cost began to climb, and the price level climbed to P2, okay, to P2, while real GDP has reached its peak. So the aggregate supply, which rises in the beginning because the higher the price level, the more willing firms such as a ready company offer more output. But as aggregate supply YF reach full employment, okay, the aggregate supply curve become inelastic, become vertical shape. Okay, this is happened because of the after full employment has been attained. Okay, the supply of output. Okay, the supply of output cannot be expanded since firms are unable to respond to surplus demand by increasing output. So there is a pressure on the wages and the raw material costs. As a result, demand pull inflation is produced.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NOOR and I'm from BINTI GHAZALI. So today I would like to share about the causes of demand pull inflation. So first of all, it is because of government spending. Government spending can lead to demand pull inflation. Let's say the government plans to start some infrastructure projects like the expansion of metro lines or building new highways. Such a scenario attracts investment not only from local businessmen but also from international investors. For local businessmen, this is an opportunity to invest in a new business or to expand their existing business. For international investors, this is an opportunity to maximize return on their investment compared to their home country. Both these factors result in more money coming to the economy, which leads to high prices. This will attract investment from both foreign and local businessmen to buy land there and build their office. All these factors will eventually lead to an increase in the land prices in that area. Next causes is economic growth and increased consumption. A growing economy fills everyone with optimism. Companies are hopeful that their products will find buyers. Employees are optimistic that they will get good hikes. Graduates are optimistic that they will get good high-paying jobs. Everyone feels that the economy is on track and the government is doing its best in managing it. In such a scenario, people spend more, take loans, buy cars and houses. This increases demand and is one of the most common healthy causes of demand pull inflation. Next is exchange rate. A devaluation in the exchange rate of the local currency affects the economy as it leads to expensive imports and reduced prices of exports. Hence, consumers will be inclined to buy local products and will avoid imported products, thereby benefiting local industry. The improved demand will increase the prices of locally made products, leading to new equilibrium. Last causes is monetary policy. Sometimes the government feels that the economy is not growing on expected lines. In that case, the central bank will take measures to increase the money supply in the economy. With more money at their disposal, people will like to spend more, which will increase demand. For example, a central bank can reduce the repo rate, which decreases the rate of interest on home loans and auto loans. This will attract consumers as they are getting the same money at cheaper rates and will start buying more, leading to more demand and hence an increase in prices.
Okay, my name is SYAKIR bin AZMI. Today I will explain about calculation of demand pull inflation. As you can see here, this is the inflation rate formula. This can allow us to see the percentage of increase or decrease in cost between giving the year by how much percentage. Okay, next is the example how to calculate using the formula. As you can see here, this is the how to use it, and the question is inflation for bananas in March 2014 compared to July 2001. The inflation rate was 13.46%. Okay, next is how inflation was measured. It primarily caused by two main indices, WPI, wholesale price index, and CPI, consumer price index. CPI, consumer price index, calculate the difference within the price commodities and service like food, medical aid, education, electronic, and else. While WPI is wholesale price index, which calculates consumer to buy products or service sold by businesses to lower businesses for selling further, to further sell the product. Okay, so that's all how it was measured. So next I will give to someone else to continue the explanation about demand pull inflation. Okay, thank you.
Inflation is not necessarily bad for the economy. For example, crippling inflation can generate good effect on the overall economy of a country. But once the economy reaches the stage of full employment, any further increase in desired expenditure for goods and services will cause the price to rise as their supplies that cannot be increased at all. Such a demand-induced price rise would ultimately bring about an increase in wage. Firstly, full employment and trend rate of economic growth. Another way of thinking about full employment is when an economy is experiencing economic growth close to its long-run trend rate. Next is the long-run trend rate of growth. The long-run trend rate of growth is a average sustainable rate of economic growth over a period of time. It could also be termed as the underlying trend rate of economic growth. The long-run trend rate is determined by growth in productive capacity. It is the rate of growth which is consistent with low inflation. Actual growth can be quite volatile with boom and bust by taking the growth rate away from the underlying trade rates. In the UK, the post-war period, the long-run trend rate is approximately 2.5%, but we had many periods of boom and bust. Next, a falling unemployment rate. Say the economy is in a boom period and the unemployment rate fall to a new low. Interest rates are at a low point too. The federal government seeking to get more gasoline cars off the road initiated of special tax credit for buyers of fuel-efficient cars. The big auto companies are thrilled, although they did not anticipate such a confluence of upbeat factors all at once. So we can conclude demand pull inflation occur when too much of spending like consumption expenditure, investment expenditure and government expenditure on the limited supply of goods that can be produced at full employment pulls up price and ultimately wage.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is AUNI Siti KHADIJAH binti AHMAD FAIZAL from Group 6. I will explain about the example of developed and developing nations that are facing inflation. The developed nation that is facing inflation is our country, Malaysia, while the example of developing nation that is facing inflation is Myanmar. I will explain about three types of inflation in both countries, which are food inflation, non-food inflation, and core inflation. Regarding food inflation in Malaysia, due to the base impact last year, national inflation climbed by 3.2% to RM124.50 in December 2021 compared to RM120.60 in the same month the previous year. The growth significantly outpaced Malaysia's average inflation rate from 2011 to 2021, which is 1.9%. While in Myanmar, inflation in the food sector fell to 4% in April 2020 from 7.8% in December, owing to decreasing prices in rice, cooking oil, chicken, eggs, and vegetables. Other than that, there are non-food inflation. In Malaysia, inflation without fuel increased by to 115 ringgit 10 cent in December 2021 compared to 120 ringgit 80 cent in the same month the previous year. While in Myanmar, low prices for apparel, alcoholic beverages, recreation and culture, fuel and gold drove non-food inflation down to 7.5% in April 2020 from 12.3% in December. And the last type of inflation is core inflation. In Malaysia, in December 2021, core inflation increased by 1.1% as compared to the same month the prior year. The furnishings, household equipment, and routine household maintenance group saw the largest increase of 2.7%, while in Myanmar, core inflation remained high in April 2020 at roughly 13%. The year-over-year effect of higher electricity tariff rates is expected to fade from July onwards.
So lastly, we are going to present about the statistical data. So for the statistical data, we are going to use UK inflation from 1978 to 1992. So when we look at the graph, okay, from 1986, okay, the inflation rate is 3, and then increasing until 1991. So 1991, the inflation rate is 7.6. So this was an example of demand pull inflation. So this happened because of the cost push factor, which is wages or maybe all prices.